I'm back. I went to Bolivia. 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 Why was I in Bolivia? Who's asking? Who are you? But I'm back. And I've been dying to talk about games again. And today, we have a huge one for me. You see? Before we begin, very briefly, I hope you'll allow me to share a little bit of my own action first-person shooter history, and believe me, I'll be very brief. As brief as I can. When I was a kid, I knew of John Woo movies, but I never could get my hands on them. But I had seen plenty of media and specifically played games that made reference to them, not the least of which was Max Payne, and I still love that entire series to this day. But the main one was The Specialists, which was a Half-Life deathmatch total conversion mod that I insist is the best multiplayer first-person shooter of all time, and I have never played a single-player game that incorporated such a beautifully fluid stunt system like the one that was in The Specialists. This is the part where I say until now, because until now I knew that someone would eventually have to get it right, but I had never seen it done so right. In short, Severed Steel is everything I want in a first-person shooter. I've often said the thing I look for most in the first-person shooter is the enemy AI, or the enemy behavior. The more realistic or dangerous they are, the more fun I'll have in a first-person shooter. And I put that above almost any other priority I could have. Now, I wouldn't say the enemies in Severed Steel are particularly intelligent or tactically creative, but they often don't survive long enough to really find out if they are or they aren't. They will get to you. They don't get hung up on any geometry. They are sharp-eyed, so they'll see you if you fall into their line of sight, even from a distance. And when they shoot at you, they're very accurate with their shots. So I'd say they fall into the acceptable baseline for enemy behavior, but everything else about this game so far beyond transcends any concerns I would have or any desire I would have for fancy enemy AI programming. I find it so unfortunate that destructible environments are a bit of a lost art, that few have been able to do it as well as Battlefield or Red Faction Guerrilla. It seems like it's lower on the priority list for game developers these days, and I'm sure there are many good and likely mostly bad reasons for that. But thankfully, this game was made by a small team, and it uses something called voxel plugin, which means that all the environments are built with voxels, and the voxels can be deleted in a way that leads to very convincing environmental destruction. The way that the bullets and various weapons interact with the environment in this game is breathtaking. You can tell that it's made with voxels. You can see that there are some technical limitations, but all this does is lead to a distinct, stylish, low poly visual style in the environments. And the fact that this low poly look of the environments, which is actually created with voxels and not polygon, but that all the surfaces also have all the fancy lighting and shaders and reflections, give this game an incredible look. Back in the days when Quake 2 and Half-Life modding were going concerns, there were a couple notable mods that tried to turn the gameplay into something that resembled an action movie. You had your Action Quake 2, which was very groundbreaking and led to things like Counter-Strike, and Action Half-Life, which was Action Half-Life on its own was a pretty impressive project, but the culmination and the pinnacle of this entire concept is the Specialists. And ever since the Specialists, I've not found a game that matched its fluidity in movement and the expressiveness of its stunt system, which was very deep. I'm well aware that in this day and age of the resurgence of the old school boomer shooters, the subgenre of first-person shooters, that there's some limited stunt systems implemented there, usually for movement speed purposes and sometimes for evasion purposes. That's cool. I love those games. I love those extra movement options. But as far as I know, no game does anything quite like Severed Steel. And until Severed Steel, no game had done it as well as the Specialists. So now we have a new stunt-based first-person shooter king. The stunt system consists of a slide, a dive, and a wall run. The chaining of these stunts is critical to your ability to stay alive, and do so in transcendent and disgusting style. From a wall run, you can initiate either of the other two stunts, and you can combine wall runs with a double jump, which means that every obstacle is at your mercy. You can truly traverse these maps in a wide variety of ways, and you'll have to get creative with how you traverse them, as you'll be under heavy fire the whole time. And that's the reason why this is so important. Because as you're stunting, as you're in the action of any of the three stunt types, you are invincible. And this gets really important when you play the game how I've preferred to play it lately, with the option of one-hit deaths, meaning you get touched by anything and you're gone. And this, combined with a quick respawn time, as an option, I'm so glad it's there, because it's a great challenge. It forces you to utilize the stunts in creative ways, because you can't chain a dive from a slide, and you cannot chain a slide to a dive. And that means that you have to be very aware of your surroundings and how you stunt and make those split-second decisions, but also with a tactical mind and good situational awareness. And although this game looks like just a fast-paced, very simple-minded, violent first-person shooter, it's so much more than that. It's a game that not only teaches you how to get good at it, but just might have the ability to teach you a little bit about yourself. I played this game on stream for around an hour and a half, and I was playing on Rogue Steel mode, which, as you can see here, gives you 3 lives before it starts you all over. It gives you a series of random levels to play through. It's the roguelike. And I have the options where you start off with no weapons and you get killed in one hit. And I could not, in around an hour and a half, clear a single level with those parameters. And so this is my attempt to do it. And what you're seeing here is my understanding that stunting is the key to stay alive, which I knew this forever, but comboing from one stunt into another. Getting the timing right is important, and it's not always obvious, but it's very satisfying once you do. It's not a fault of the game. One of my favorite parts about this game that I didn't mention in the previous section was how if you're out of ammo or you're unarmed, you automatically pick up any gun that's around you. And that includes the sidearms of enemies while they're still alive. So you can stunt close to somebody and you can just yoink their sidearm and use it against them. But, you know, in a game that's so fast-paced, you actually realize how important patience is, especially when you get down to this last bit. And when this happened, I was so stoked because I had just spent forever trying to beat a level, and I finally did it. I learned skills that the game wanted me to learn. I have to admit that it gave me some amount of confidence that was beyond just my ability in the game. I always, to be honest with you, I kind of laugh at video game accomplishments. Unless it's something like a speed running feat or some kind of competitive video game playing that requires a lot of skill and there's stakes and there's pressure. And of course I felt a sense of accomplishment if I've completed a game, and completing a game is something that I rarely do. But I always questioned it. I always thought, what am I really accomplishing? What's the sense of accomplishment I'm feeling, and what does it mean to me? But in Severed Steel, it comes down to the creativity of it. It really is a matter of the stunt system being a ballet and the gunfire being the symphony. It's a dance that is unchoreographed, is improvised in every moment, and the creativity mixed with the difficulty of the game with the parameters that I was playing with is what really gives the sense of accomplishment. Practicing with your hands and then accomplishing something, that's more than just brute force getting through something or brute forcing your way to some sort of accomplishment. It's building skill. This is not groundbreaking, I understand. People have come to this conclusion about Dark Souls before, and about old 8-bit games that are very challenging, but I've never really gave it much importance until I beat one single level in Severed Steel. And that's what I learned about myself. Hopefully you weren't expecting this revelation to rock your world. If you were, sorry. I'm just kind of saying that a hard game made me believe that I could accomplish something. Something that's been said many times. But I finally came to that realization for myself. Just take that for what it's worth.